Hey buddy, it's Stitch 1993 here, back again. It is the end of November, so we're back here still talking about more Christmas movies, and this time it is just purely the Rankin Bass Christmas movies. And here with me, of course, is my wife Shelby.
Hi, everybody.
And so, if you want to know our thoughts on just the collection of just the hodgepodge of Christmas movies, check out our last video. This is just strictly Rankin Bass. Also, for some of them, I'm not going to get into as much detail because later this week, or it may have already been posted by now, I haven't checked the calendar, but I am doing the top 10 underrated Rankin Bass Christmas/holiday specials, so definitely check that out, or make sure to like and subscribe if you want to find out what my thoughts are on the underrated ones. So we're going to go through, I think there's about 20 Rankin Bass holiday films. And these are just mainly the Christmas ones that came out with the collection that released last year on DVD. So this isn't all of them. So we're not going to have stuff like Peter Cottontail. I think they also did like Mad Monster Party and a couple other non-holiday related ones. Although interesting enough, this does have, well, I guess because it has Rudolph, it does have the New Year's Eve and the July 4th holidays, so we will include those in this discussion just because they're in the collection. First, before we start, I'm just going to give my overall thoughts on Rankin Bass, and then I'll let Shelby do the same. Of course, probably with like most of y'all listening or watching this, I grew up with Rankin Bass. I prefer their stop motion over their animation. Animation is not bad, but you can definitely tell it is, I don't know if it's just they had better budgets for the stop motion. It's just for most of them, they put a lot more detail in the stop motion ones. And yeah, I grew up with watching most of these as they would come on television. We did have a box set of them on VHS. I'll post a little picture here. Some of you might have grown up with the same box set because I remember seeing this pretty much everywhere in the 90s, and you can still kind of sometimes find it at thrift stores. Still sealed. I don't have, well, I do have a particular favorite one, but I don't really have any that I hate. There are some that are better than others, as we'll go into, and I'll let Shelby give her thoughts on Rankin Bass in general as a whole.
I have roughly the same thoughts you do. I do agree the stop motion ones are better than just the regular 2D animation. I feel like they put more effort into the stop motion ones as well. Like a lot of the times the stories were more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And all of my favorites were the stop motion ones. I don't really get into the animated ones. They're not bad. They're just not particularly interesting.
Fair enough. All right, so we're going to go in alphabetical order because that's how Shelby's got this list coming out here. First one out is Cricket on the Hearth. Now I'm going to be honest. I had never watched this one until we got the DVD collection, and it's one of their 2D anime ones. It's, in my opinion, a little middle of the road. It's not bad, but it's definitely, it has some interesting ideas, and and of course it is based off of a Charles Dickens story, which I've never read. So I don't know how close or loose that they get with the plot details, but it is about this toy maker and his daughter. They kind of fall on some hard times. The daughter was betrothed to somebody. He was in the military. His boat got lost at sea. She became so upset that it caused her to go blind, and just snafu after snafu. He ends up losing his toy shop, starts working for this other dude. Other dude's not that nice, but he just continues to make toys. They come upon this homeless dude and take him in and try to deal with what they have, and they end up finding that the old guy is actually the previous betrothed. It's a lot of, I feel like this probably is better done as a book, and it would have been better as like a full feature film than like a 50-minute animated, made for kids type of thing. Here, just like most of the Rankin Bass, it is narrated by a creature. I don't remember the narrator, but this is a cricket, and the cricket's there because he's supposed to be good luck, which I think he's a faulty cricket, because as soon as he gets brought into the family, all that just random bad stuff starts going down, and then it ends up being good. But I'm like, and they're like, oh, because we have the cricket. I'm like, are you really gonna think the cricket? Because really, if this is just I don't know, it was a lot of bad luck first, and then just happened to turn into good luck, but not so much as what you thought. Anyways, what are your thoughts on that one?
I agree, it's middle of the road. It's also kind of on the darker side for Rankin Bass, like with the going blind and the military aspect of it. And
to be fair, it won't be the first one where somebody goes blind.
yeah, it's not the first one, but it's not the usual feel I'm used to watching Rankin Bass, so I wasn't as invested in this one.
I agree.
It is definitely middle of the road, maybe lower middle, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. Next one is The First Christmas. Speaking of people going blind.
Yeah.
So this one stars Angela Lansbury. Is also narrated by her as well. And it is about this group of nuns that see a little, I think he's like a shepherd boy or something, get struck by lightning during a storm. And so they kind of help raise him. And he ends up, getting into kids' things and ends up in a pageant. And then he recovers his eyesight. Yeah, that's about it. It is stop motion, but it's just kind of boring to me. I was not really invested in it. I can't even recall any of the songs. These are all musicals, and I'm like, I couldn't think of one song from this or Creature on the Earth. What were your thoughts on this one?
This one, and we literally just watched this yesterday, was so boring that I can't remember most of the plot. We literally watched this less than 12 hours
We
ago.
did. Yeah, we've Shelby has not seen as many Rankin Bass films as I have. So we sat down and went through the collection of the ones that she either didn't ever see or just did not recall seeing. And this was one of them, and I agree with her. I had seen this one like once or twice before, so I kind of that's how I remember like a good bit of the plot. But it's like outside of some plot points. Like again, as I said, I can't recall any of the songs. Oh, good. Now one, of course, I'm sure everybody's going to remember. It's Frosty the Snowman. It is just straight up just based off of the song of the same name. I really like the villain. This is the Rankin Bass does a really good job of making really interesting, most of the time a little bit on the silly side, villains, and this is one of them. It's I forget his name.
The Magician.
I think he's just called the Magician. I remember his rabbit's name is Hocus Pocus. And I love the rabbit. Rabbit has an attitude.
It's so cute.
Back before like animated characters like had attitudes like that. Like this was like before the Disney horse type of thing, or like really before any of the Disney animals started having personalities.
Not really, because you remember the horse and Sleeping Beauty does have one.
I do, and that's like the only one that comes to mind. Anything else didn't have one until we get to like Little Mermaid and around that time. But anyways, back to it. So it is 2D animated. It's like probably one of the best ones that's 2D animated. It is about kids right after school during snow break make a snowman. The magician, who's just like this magician the school hired to entertain the kids for the last couple hours of the school day, which he's a bad magician at that. He blames it all on his hat, so he throws the hat away. The kids are like, we'll use the hat for the snowman. And that somehow magically causes him to come to life. And because of that, the magician is now trying to get his hat back because he thinks that now that that hat made a snowman come to life, it will grant him magical powers and make him a better magician. And then after that, it's up to one of the main girls to help Frosty get to the North Pole because it is already getting warmer. And yeah, then it's just, you go through the song, you go to the village, traffic cop is involved there for a little bit, they get on a train, and then after that they kind of have to, put the rest of their information in on their own. I don't remember the name of the girl. I don't think it's Karen. I want to say it's Karen, but it's probably not Karen. But anyways, I really like Frosty's voice. I think it's the same voice actor for like most of this. Even when he's in stop motion, I think they use the same voice actor. But yeah, this is like just, the one probably everyone has seen. And if you haven't, definitely check it out. Because Rankin Bass really liked Frosty, as we'll come to see.
So Frosty is my favorite of the 2D animated.
Same.
It's still not my favorite Rankin Bass, period. There's like so many ahead of Frosty. But it is like really good and it's really cute. I remember vividly watching this at my grandparents' house on VHS growing up, and it was like on the FHE.
Yeah,
VHSs.
The picture that I'm posting here, but FHE, Family Home Entertainment. It was like ours came in a blue box.
Yep.
And it was looked like it was a wrapped gift. And it would come with Frosty the Snowman, Little Drummer Boy, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and another one that wasn't Rankin Bass is Chuck Jones, and it's like A Very Merry Cricket, and it had also Blue Toes the Christmas Elf, which neither one of those are Rankin Bass, so yeah, it was weird that they included those, but still, they're part of the FHE Family Christmas Collection there, so, continue. Well, I'm sorry.
It's just a vivid memory I have growing up of sitting down almost year-round watching that particular VHS because I am a fiend for Christmas. I will celebrate it all year round if you let me. So Frosty was a staple growing up, and as I got older, I kind of started liking it a little less and less. Just because for me, the story as I grew up just got a little too simplistic.
But to be fair, that's like a lot of Rankin Bass stories. They're really simplistic stories.
And I'm finding that
they're based off of Christmas songs, so they kind of have to... And they're made for children from the 60s through the 70s, so yeah, it's going to be simplistic.
Yeah. It's not a criticism, it's just something that I noticed in myself growing up. The ones that ended up really sticking with me that I really enjoyed had a little bit more to them, even still to this day.
Gotcha. Another interesting thing, they usually would get somebody famous to do the narration. I do not recall his name, but he is somebody that I did not know as a kid, but, growing up with Turner Classic Movies, I started seeing more and more of his films. I'm like, oh, yeah. If you've seen, Looney Tunes or something, you see, a caricature of a dude with, a red nose, and he does ha-cha-cha-cha-cha. That's him. So Frosty's Winter Wonderland is the direct sequel to Frosty the Snowman, where Frosty gets his wife. That's where Karen is. That's his... No, it's...
The wife's name is Crystal.
Wife's name is Crystal. That's right. Wife's name is Crystal, and it's, again, 2D animated, and it is... it's pretty much just that. And then, of course, but Jack Frost is jealous that Frosty is taking all his thunder away from, all the snow and stuff. Which sounds like Disney liked watching that a little too many times, and how that's how we got Santa Claus 3.
Yeah.
And that one is narrated by Andy Griffith. And they did a really weird... I know it's supposed to be a caricature, but it doesn't really look like Andy Griffith. I know this was after the Andy Griffith Show, but I think maybe before Matlock. So he's kind of in that middle age. section there. But they like gave him like buck teeth, and I was like, why? He doesn't have buck teeth. But whatever, it's character. Yeah, this one's pretty okay. It's kind of middle of the road there. It's still Frosty. And they also, they introduced Crystal. Also, they create like a what is the Parson?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They create Parson Brown.
Parson Brown from the Winter Wonderland song to get them married, and that's how it's like you watch Frosty the Snowman, you watch this, and then you watch Frosty and Rudolph's Christmas in July. That's like the trilogy for Frosty the Snowman there.
It really is.
I don't mind it. I've only seen it like a handful of times. I like what they do later on for Jack Frost, because I'm not really a fan of this design or voice for Jack Frost. What were your thoughts?
It was okay.
Yeah.
That's it. It was okay.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Jack Frost. This is actually one of my favorites. I'll get to this more in my underrated video. But yeah, it's like their only steampunk one, and like before really steampunk was a thing. And I absolutely enjoy it. It's Jack Frost, and then they're set in like, I think like most of these are like supposed to be set in like the 1800s or like, before the 20th century. Because they use a lot of the same sets and clothing if you take a good notice to them. But anyways, so in this town, it's like run by this Kubra, I think is his name, Kubra Khan. And he's just like kind of like the Burgermeister, just this mean person that like takes all the money from everybody. But the townsfolk like when it snows, because then they get icicles. They use icicles for money, and they trade and buy with that. And they always thank Jack Frost. One year, while Jack is doing that, he gets infatuated with a woman, and he goes up to all these cloud people. There's not just Jack Frost. There's like a whole group of type of weather creatures and characters. And he like gets granted the wish to be a human for a couple days, and he's like, hey, you need to get a house, or you need, I think, money in a house, a horse, and get married, all with like a couple days or like a week of each other. It's really fast. But of course it's only like a 30-45 minute short, so of course it's got to be really fast. Of course, she's just not into him because she's into this other dude that comes in later in the picture. So he doesn't get his wish, but it's still kind of cool seeing all that happens. And he does end up still saving the town there. I just really like the robot designs. It's like, again, it's steampunk, and it's like one of the only ones. No, I think we got like one other that has some roboticness to it there. I like this Jack Frost better. And this is like the only time they use this Jack Frost. He'll show up again later on, but they use different kind of like a mixture of one from Frosty's Wonderland and this one later on. I always had the one thought though. I'm like, okay, if you guys are like buying and trading with fake money that's going to disappear, do you really need the icicles? Can't you just like turn anything, like just take down a couple of trees limbs and cut those into coins and just have wooden coins? Those would at least last longer, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it only being wintertime when you could do a free trade. Plus you guys are just kind of trading anyway, so just take money out of the equation anyways. But that's just my thoughts on that. What were yours?
I really like this one. For me, it's one of the first times you see like a real character arc for the main character, like point A, point B, point C type of situation. Which I love when stories do that kind of thing. So to get that in like a little 25-30 minute short was like a breath of fresh air watching through all Rankin Bass. And I do enjoy Rankin Bass, but some of them just kind of drone. And this one, it kept moving. The story kept progressing. So I really enjoyed that, and I really like just how Jack develops throughout the short. It's really just seamless. It's really good. It's really interesting, and it's easy to follow.
Right. Next is Leprechaun's Christmas Gold. It's like the only one that's kind of, as far as I'm aware, based on another culture's Christmas traditions. This one, of course, is Ireland, and of course, they use the song "Christmas in Killarney."
Oh yeah, that would be it.
Yeah. Because that's like the only mostly known Christmas Irish song. And so it is about this this man that washes up on this little Irish island, and he comes across leprechauns gold. And the little leprechaun's like, "Hey, don't steal, but we'll give you some, but you also need to help us because there's this banshee that keeps trying to steal our gold, and we've just been there. She did it. She has been so bad to us that it's caused like a split in our culture because some of us trust this and some of us don't. So they end up trapping the banshee and doing away with her. I really like the designs for the leprechauns. They're not like what you would traditionally think at like the Lucky Charms type of person, and they give them a bit more personality than just gold. And yeah, and again, Christmas in Killarney song is used. There's also a couple other songs that are really cool. I like when they use other cultures. I wish they had done more of that than just the one time thing there. I know you're not a big fan of this one.
I'm not, and it's not because of like the cultural the cultural stuff going on. That part of the aspect of it I do enjoy. What I don't enjoy is the really dumb sniping arguments in it, because they're arguing over the most inane things, and it's just takes me out of my Christmas vibes. It takes me from, I'm here to enjoy a little Rankin Bass short and be all in my Christmas vibes with some snacks, and instead I am watching little leprechauns argue.
Yeah. Alright, so Life and Adventures of Santa Claus is my favorite Rankin Bass. Anything. Movies, shorts, you name it. This is my favorite one. Is based on the book by L. Frank Baum, who, if you recognize that name but can't pinpoint it, he's the author of the Wizard of Oz series, the first 15 books. That's all him. But he also wrote this, which is the same title, and it's a nice twist on the Santa lore. So it's about these immortal creatures have come across this little kid and decide to raise it because he's just out. They find him in the middle of the cold, and one elf and or sprite in general is just yeah, we are live forever, and we were never a kid, nor are we ever going to be old. So she just gets infatuated with seeing the baby, and she's like, I'm going to be this kid's mom, even though I don't really know what a mom is. I'm just going to take it upon myself to take care of the kid. And she does, and she raises the kid. The kid grows up, of course, to be Santa Claus. And the story is that all the immortals are in a meeting to decide if Santa, who is a mortal himself, should be granted the powers of being immortal because of just how much good he has brought to the world through the giving of gifts for free without anybody requesting it. And it's mainly for kids as well, and just all the joy he brings. And they kind of, go through his life. It's very consolidated. It's just kind of a small chunk out of the larger book of what the life and times of Santa Claus are. But it's really cool. It's, of course, he does not look like, it is stop motion, but he does not look like the red-headed Santa Claus that we would see in Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This guy is blonde. But he ends up still looking like the Santa Claus. I think he's also even eventually voiced by the same person later on, so that's kind of weird. I would think that they would, you know, have this one a separate type of look, but I guess they all wanted to just use the same. I mean, if you got a Santa Claus model, you might as well use them. I just really like the creatures designs in these are just the greatest. I don't remember how descriptive the creatures were in L. Frank Baum's book, or how close they did with any drawings, but just wow, this was like the most creative Rankin Bass really ever got. What were your thoughts?
So I actually really enjoyed this one. I like the fantasy element of it. I like the family element of it. It's nice to see how this version of Santa grows and becomes the Santa we'll see in other shorts, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite, representation of basically the same story. Right. But it's a close second. I do really enjoy it. It's really entertaining to watch. The world building for it is perfectly done. This is pretty top of the list in terms of Rankin Bass shorts.
Mm-hmm. This is also like one that's not really a musical. Like there's musical pieces, but it's more of just like choir, orchestra in the background, mostly instrumentals or like chants kind of stuff. There's no, outside of like 1 or 2 songs that I can recall, it's not like a lot of people stopping and singing. It's just, a lot of choir pieces. Alright, The Little Drummer Boy, and also Little Drummer Boy Book 2. So starting with the first one, it is a classic. I grew up with it, as I said. It was in the FHE collection, and this is like my favorite rendition of the Drummer Boy song. Of course, they have to make up their own stories. So in this one, this boy that was a shepherd, his parents get murdered one night, and so he decides, I just hate everybody now, and he uses his drum to like just walk around town, and like these animals, which is a lamb, a donkey, and a camel, just kind of magically follow him whenever he plays the drum. And this wandering, I don't remember what he's supposed to be, carpetbagger or whatever, sees this, and he's like, ooh, I can make money off of this. So he enslaves the little drummer boy, forces him to sing and dance to make money. Drum boy does it for like all of like 3 minutes, and then some of the faces in the crowd remind him of the people that murdered his family, and he's like, nah, screw y'all, I'm going home. And he gets recaptured. At the same time, they run into the 3 wise men, and one of their camels has got hurt, so the carpetbagger dude sells the little drum boy's, his name is Aaron, sells Aaron's camel, which means they have to tag along too, so they all come to Bethlehem, and little drum boy sees the baby Jesus and plays his drum for him, and we get the song. And I don't really remember what happens to the carpetbagger. I know he like loses all his money, but I don't remember how. I always forget that part, because it's not important. But great music. I still remember the songs to this day. I'll let you give your thoughts on book 1, and then we'll go to book 2.
So, book 1 is one of the most out there Rankin Bass shorts.
Right? Like, when you're watching it, you're like, oh, yeah, but when you explain it, you're like, wait, what?
Wait. Like, when you're watching it in the moment, everything makes sense. You're like, oh, yeah, this is
of course
totally understandable.
Yeah.
I get what's going on here. It makes perfect sense. And then you line it up with the rest of their filmography, and you're like,
well,
what was that?
This is so dark.
So, like, it is interesting. It's extremely interesting. But, man, I'm so glad I only watch it at most once a year, because, it gets dark. That poor boy.
Yeah.
That poor baby.
Oh, and like his lamb gets run over, and he like lamb. They never really say if the lamb dies or is just like seriously wounded. He does get healed, but like it's hinted at that the lamb died. So
Yeah.
there's like at least 3 death tolls, 1 rejuvenated in this 30-minute short.
Yeah, like this.
There's a death toll.
There's a body count in this one.
Book 2. So it literally takes place like right after the first one. It like the first one ends with Aaron playing the drums for Baby Jesus. Second one opens with Aaron playing the drums for Baby Jesus, and then he heads with the wise men for more hijinks. It is done like 10 years later, so like they got everybody back except for the kid that played Aaron. So his voice and whoever they had to recast him, of course, because kids grow up. However, whoever they got does not sound like okay. So Aaron in the first one kind of has like a deep kid voice, whereas this one has a really high pitched voice, and it sounds so weird and so off. And yeah, it's kind of more of the same thing. They don't run into the same villain, but they kind of run into a villain like the first one. It's really weird. But yeah, and then it's just the wise men just going out and spreading word about the star and people to follow the star to Bethlehem and so on. Not as memorable of songs. Yeah, what were your thoughts on book 2?
It was okay, but if you're watching book 1 and book 2 back to back, you're gonna completely forget about book 2 when you're done.
It's a big whiplash in regards to feel and vibe. I think
like it tried to do some of the same bits from the first one, but none of it hit. It's like I can't recommend this one. This one is like my absolute least favorite because it's just it doesn't fit.
All right, Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey is another one that's really dark.
I know.
It's really weird because it starts off with a totally different scene. It's like starts at the North Pole. Santa's like flying off with his reindeer, and there's a donkey, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, my ancestor was the donkey that Mary rode into Bethlehem on. Let me tell you that story." I'm like, why did we just start with that? Why did we need all this North Pole stuff that has nothing to do with the story at all, other than to have a narrator? I'm like, couldn't it have just been, I don't know, one of the other farm animals that was hanging out with Nestor? I don't know. So the story of Nestor is about this little baby donkey, little kid donkey, and his mom in this not so well off farm area. The farmer's really bad, and Nestor, because of his long ears, keeps tripping over them, so he's like not good to like carry stuff. And then the Roman soldiers try to buy his mom, or try to buy something, and separate him from Nestor. Nestor goes, starts kicking around. He throws both of them out. Mom freezes to death to save the Nestor, and then Nestor gets visited by a cherub, and the cherub kind of directs him to Bethlehem, so that not to Bethlehem, but to Nazareth or wherever, I forget. Mary and Joseph are first met up with there, and then he gets bought. Mary rides onto him in Bethlehem, and then at the end, everything's hunky-dory. He goes back to the farm. Everybody's nice to him now, including the farm dude, for whatever reason. It's really weird. If you do not like even like animated versions of animal violence, I wouldn't check this out, because he's really mean to the donkey. He throws him using his ears, and not in a comedic way either. Like it would have to be a comedic way, but still, it's another one that's got a body count. But yeah, I mean, the songs are good. I at least like that. What are your thoughts on Nestor?
The songs are good. The story is like it's dark. It's a rough watch. But at the same time, it's still interesting to watch. Like, you can't really tear yourself away from it when it starts. You kind of get sucked in.
Yeah. However, if you want a Christmas special, if you want a recommended Christmas special about the donkey that Mary rode into Bethlehem, I've just watched Don Bluth's Walt Disney's Small One. It's almost the same plot, just better songs, better animation. In my opinion, even with it being 2D animation, it's Don Bluth animation. Back when Don Bluth was working for Disney, so it's Disney Don Bluth animation. But back to Nestor.
Nestor himself is sweet.
He's
feel for him.
He is very cute.
I will say the cherub is kind of creepy looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alright, Pinocchio's Christmas. So, it is literally just the story of Pinocchio, but, like, set during Christmas time. Like, it's him getting... I mean, he's already made by the time this short starts, but they do kind of do a flashback to when he got made. I think, coming from somebody that loves the Pinocchio book, this is, like, the best from book to screen adaptation of Pinocchio. Just in general,
even though it's only half the story.
Even though it's only half the story, it's like got most of the beats that even some of the bigger movies take out. Like, you've got the fox and the cat. You've got the puppeteer that sees Pinocchio and instead of going, oh, that's weird. He's like, oh yeah, no, you should be in my puppet show. It's got the blue fairy. It's got him finding the girl puppet that he also wants to turn into a real live girl. It's got Jiminy Cricket, it's got Jiminy Cricket in it. And it's like the only time that Geppetto has a wig, because that's like a big thing in the book, is like Geppetto has like a really bad wig, and like even Pinocchio makes fun of it. And like every other rendition, they like just opt out of that story plot. But this is the only one that includes that in there. I'm just like, hey, somebody read the book. But it's all set during Christmas time. So it's got that Christmas on top of that. I really like the songs. They're really catchy. It's probably some of the Rankin Bass's best Christmas songs that aren't just based off of a well-known Christmas song. And the animation is really good. I really like the puppets look, and also like the fantasy creatures, including the blue fairy, look really well. What were your thoughts on? I know you're just not a fan of the Pinocchio story in general.
Like, I'm not a huge Pinocchio fan, mostly because it's just not what I'm into. It's a little too mean-spirited in a lot of it for me to really get into it. This is less mean-spirited than what I'm used to for Pinocchio. But it didn't leave an impression.
Fair enough.
It's kind of forgettable. It's just kind of there. It's Pinocchio.
All right. The main attraction, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So, there's like 3 versions of this out there, and I haven't watched the one on this collection to see which version it is. I know for like their 60th or 50th anniversary, I think they released a Blu-ray that had like all the different versions of it on there. But there's like 3 versions of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Each one, like, every time they released it, they like did some like George Lucas sing alternative stuff to it. So like if you watch the first one, it's going to be different than the second one. So I think this is probably the closest to the original airing. The main difference is when Hermie meets Rudolph for the first time, which song do they sing? Do they sing We're a Couple of Misfits, or do they sing Fame and Fortune? I grew up with the FHE version where they sang Fame and Fortune, but if you watch it on television, they don't include that, and it's always We're a Couple of Misfits. So,
and I grew up with We're a Couple of Misfits.
Right? So I'm just, every time I watch it, I'm just about to sing Fame and Fortune, and then they're like, no, we're a couple of misfits. I'm like, whoa, what? What? I had to look it up. I thought it was going on Mandela effect. And they're like, no, there's just 2 versions of they're out there. And then the third one is, okay, so in the original airing that entire end scene where Rudolph and Santa go back to the island Misfit Toys and rescue them and stuff, and that was never there. It was like that when they just forgot that plot when they first aired it, so they got a bunch of letters from kids like, "Did Rudolph never tell Santa about the toys?" So they added that scene later. And also, if you want to know why the doll is there, even though it doesn't look like there's really anything wrong with her, I haven't been able to find exact proof of this. I think the negatives are destroyed, but but from what I've read over the years, the original reason the doll is there is because the original doll didn't have any eyes. And yeah, that's kind of creepy. So they kind of went back in and gave the doll eyes, and just, yeah. So that's why, because you see all the other toys and you're like, I can kind of get why they would be there. I get it. They're not defective, they're just weird. But then, why is the doll there? The doll originally did not have any eyes or something of that sort. I really enjoy this. It gets a lot of, there's been other Rudolph versions over the years, but this is like the most closest to the fantasy side of it, where everything else always tries to go like realistic. For Rudolph, this is like, nah, there's like instead of magic feet, it's just like y'all just born to know how to fly, and you have to do the reindeer games to figure that out. Cool, whatever. There's this giant island of toys that for some odd reason Santa does make them, but then the kids don't like them, so they somehow get shipped to this island thanks to this flying lion. And some of those toys are just dang cool. Like I've watched, every time I watch that, I'm like, I want a polka dotted elephant.
Yes.
We do have the cowboy on the cowboy on the riding an ostrich. And even I was like, the train just needs new wheels. Also the gun squirting jelly, or the water gun that squirts jelly. I'm like, why has nobody jumped on that? That's probably a really cool thing to do. I don't know.
Not a single parent would buy that for their kid. Do you know how much how many rounds of laundry they'd have to do because the kid decided to put jelly in their water gun?
It wouldn't be a water gun, it'd be a jelly gun.
No.
And you use it to it'd be the easiest way to spread jelly on toast, whatever. But I really enjoy this. Of course, the songs are classics. You've got Burl Ives being both the snowman and the narrator, but also he sings most of the songs in there, so that's great as well. Animation, of course, is top notch. This is like the only time we get that weird beady eyeball Santa. Every time after that, it is the regular Santa voice, and it's voiced by somebody else. But because this was their first one, they hadn't gotten some of the details down yet, so we don't have, Mickey Rooney Santa Claus just yet. Your thoughts?
This is almost perfection. There are like 2 other Rankin Bass ones that I put above this one, but it's like really all close together. Like it's like barely a stepping stone down. I love the songs in this one. Like honestly, We're a Couple of Misfits is one of my favorite. Just anything. I love it. I love it so much. I catch myself humming that all the freaking time. Also, this is my favorite version of Silver and Gold.
Yeah,
it's so pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember watching this one all the time growing up. It didn't matter what was going on. If they said this was coming on, we just all kind of sat our butts down and watched it. And it's fun. Also, the character designs are so freaking cute.
They are. And like, for it being their first one, they got Rudolph's design down packed. Like,
I know.
He never have to redesign him in any shape, way, or form. That is how Rudolph looks throughout all the Rankin Bass shorts. It is really cool. Usually you'll see some stuff and they'll like, especially if they're doing multiple ones, it's like, and even Rankin Bass did this too, where it's like, they'll change his design from film to film. It's like, nah, Rudolph looks the same in here all through the next couple that we're going to talk about. Starting with Rudolph's Shiny New Year. Again, really great one. This does tend to, growing up, they would start playing this in like December on the 25 days of Christmas, but like keep showing it afterwards because it is New Year's, so they'd show it up until like January 1st or a little after January. It is about Baby New Year is missing because everybody's making fun of his big ears. And he's just like the most adorable little stop motion baby you'll ever see. And so Father Time, voiced by Red Skelton, employs Rudolph to go find him, and he has to go through all these different islands of years past. So he's not time traveling. These are just every year that passes gets its own magical island. So there's like the island of 1800s, 1850 something. There's like a Renaissance island. There's an island during the time when all the like fantasy books were being written. So like the one with like Three Bears and Rapunzel, all, Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen, that's its own island. There's like the 1776 island where Ben Franklin is there, and they're all driven by this whale called Big Ben that has a giant clock on his tail, and I would be called this forever. But the character designs are great. It's, again, got some really memorable songs in it. The one that always comes to my mind is It's Raining Sunshine, sung by the Caveman. And yeah, they just go to island to island, where it's like, oh yeah, you just missed him, and yeah, he was here, and then everybody started making fun of his ears, so he left. And there's also a villain that's this vulture type of creature called Eon, who's just, again, another great Rankin Bass villain, who wants to steal Baby New Year, because if he never turns into the New Year, then Eon can live forever. But yeah, Rudolph and his friends, they get one character from each island to join them on their search, just because they feel bad for making fun of him when they really weren't making fun of them. They're just like, he's silly, so it made us laugh. I'm like, maybe don't laugh at a baby. Or at least try to, stilter your laugh and do what Rudolph like and explain why you're laughing. Because even though this is a baby, he can still understand human language. But anyways, it's great. I have no notes. There's no issues. Animation's great. Songs are great. Story's great. Your thoughts?
This is so cute. And I really do like how, I believe the way Rudolph explained it was, they're not laughing at you, but when they see you, you bring so much joy when they see you that it makes them burst out in laughter because of how happy they are.
That sounds right.
And that is kind of something that stuck with me while watching it. Not because I applied it to my own life, but it was like how it helped me explain things to kids when they were upset about something that it's kind of hard for an adult to explain the situation in a kid-friendly way. So it kind of helped develop that for me, those language skills for me. I don't think I'm explaining that well, but oh well. It's also just, it's so stinking cute. That baby, oh my goodness, he's so cute. And now every time I see him, I can't help but see our little tiny nephews, like the baby ones. Because, oh my goodness, they have some of the same, facial expressions, and it's just so sweet, and I love it.
Yeah. Next one is Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. This is this is another of the I think this is like the third one in the Rudolph trilogy. Or I guess if you want to...
It's basically Rankin Bass's Avengers.
Yeah, it is Rankin Bass's Avengers. Because it has literally everybody in there. It's got Rudolph. It's got Frosty. It has Crystal. It has...
Santa and
Mrs. Claus. It has Jack Frost. It has Big Ben. It gives more lore to why Rudolph has a shiny nose. Which, yeah... It's not just he was born with a health defect. Nah, it's like it's a whole thing. There's this whole magical war, and the only way to stifle it was to give a baby reindeer these magical powers. And that is why Rudolph has a red nose. And yeah, it's and again, it's back with Rankin Bass doing some cool fantasy creatures and stuff there. We've got this warlock that kind of looks like the warlock from Santa Claus Hasn't Come to Town, but it's not. It's a different warlock. And he is really conniving. To be fair, Frosty is kind of dumb. So
Frosty is giving Patrick Star vibes this entire movie.
The whole movie, not as dumb, pretty close. So the story is, there is a ice cream man that travels the world in a hot air balloon, and he's infatuated with this tightrope girl at this traveling circus, but the circus isn't doing well. And Rudolph is like, well, it's not Christmas, and I kind of have some downtime, so I could go with you. And Frosty's like, oh, I wish I could go with you, but it would be in a warm area where I would melt. So the warlock shows up and is like, oh, well, if you put this little magical emblem on, you can stay there until like the last firework goes off. And so Frosty and Crystal, and oh, by the way, the Frosty and Crystal went thumpty thump thump, and now they have some kids. So they bring their two little kids along with them, all with the same little magical insignia. When they get there, it is a whole circus, and the mom is Ethel Merman. And it is like this circus, but like with a Western motif. And the whole time they're trying to garner up money. There's this other reindeer that I do not remember his name, but he is in cahoots with the warlock and tricks Rudolph into stealing money. So because of that, his powers go away, which means also he can't fly Frosty and his kids back before the fireworks go off. And at the same time, Santa and Mrs. Claus are also trying to get to the show, but they're in fog, and because they don't have Rudolph, they can't see well, so they get lost as well. So Frosty and his whole entire family die for a little while, and then everything goes back to normal because of Jack Frost. And yeah, that is that. And it's I mean, I really do enjoy the entire Rudolph trilogy. And I'll go into more of it in one of my other videos. What are your thoughts on it?
I still can't get over the thumpity thump thump.
Look at Frosty go.
Oh, my face hurts now. This is one of my favorite ones, really. I love watching this one. I love the whole story. It's pretty intricate. There's a lot of moving parts going on.
I think this is like their most intricate
It really is. There's so much going on in this one.
But it's so memorable at the same time. It's not like others where there's parts where you're like, oh, I totally forgot on that night. Nah.
No, you remember every bit of this as like you know what's coming up next as you're watching it, so it does help deaden the blow when some of the bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
I remember being little and seeing Frosty and his family die for the first time and freaking out a little. Mm-hmm. You don't expect that in your
because they're kids.
Christmas movies.
Because they're kids.
So yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I'd probably have more to say if I wasn't fighting back hysterical laughter.
Next is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This is the classic one based on the song of the same name and narrated by Fred Astaire. And they did a good job with doing a stop motion character, Fred Astaire, in my opinion. But yeah, it's again, the kid is lost in the snowbank. Baby is lost in snowbanks. But this time, instead of a lion finding him, it's a little group of dwarves called the Kringles. And they make toys, or they used to make toys for a king that I guess used to rule the area, but now it's ruled by like a mayor, so I don't know how that works. Yeah, and so he, again, same story. He grows up, he sees kids don't have toys, so he makes toys for them, and of course there's the villain Burgermeister Meisterburger, which is like one of the best villain names ever.
Yes.
And he's just like, nah, hate toys, hate them. Doesn't hate kids, he just hates toys because they bring joy, and they like get everywhere, and he like breaks his foot on them. So that's why he doesn't like toys. Weird, yeah, but still. So then they gotta go. Well, this is why Santa only comes at night. This is why he goes down the chimneys. This is why he's named Kris Kringle. There's no like comeuppance for Burgermeister. Fred Astaire just is like, well, he died eventually, and just people forgot about him, kind of thing. So yeah, that's the only like downside I have for this one. It's like in all the other ones, the villain gets their comeuppance or becomes nice. Nah, it's just he just kind of eventually dies, so eventually stuff gets better, but they don't say how long or if Chris tried to do. I mean, Chris leaves town because he's being hunted, and that's why he lives at the North Pole. Oh, and he like marries the school teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
This one has Warlock in it.
This one does have the Warlock, and it has like the best dang song for the Warlock.
I love this one.
Also, I love Topper. I love the penguin. I love penguins. I love Topper. Your thoughts?
I love this one. This is my absolute favorite one. Specifically for Put One Foot in Front of the Other.
Mm-hmm.
I love that song so much. It's so cute. I used to like sing it to my little baby cousins when they were learning how to walk, and they'd giggle the whole time. It's so cute. I love everything about this. I do prefer this over Life and Times of Santa Claus, probably because I grew up with this one.
Fair enough.
This is the perfect Rankin Bass one for me.
Really?
I love every single moment of this. Every second of it is enjoyable. It's got the best villain. The characters are all super cute. It's really well put together. I love it.
Stingiest Man in Town is literally just Rankin Bass's 2D animated version of A Christmas Carol. There's better versions of Christmas Carol out there, honestly, and they don't do anything special with it at all, other than the narrator, which I don't remember who narrates it voice-wise, but it's a Bah Humbug. It's a humbug named Bah. Yeah. Could have thought of something better than that, honestly, in my opinion. I get it. It's a pun, but I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's no Muppet Christmas Carol. I'll give it that.
It's not even a Mickey's Christmas
It's
Carol.
not even Mickey's Christmas Carol. It is just, if you want a short and sweet, it's actually not even short and sweet. It's like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like longer than Mickey's Christmas Carol. And Mickey's Christmas Carol is a lot better at telling the story. And they like omit a lot of stuff, even though they have a longer runtime for some odd reason.
It just...
and the animation is kind of meh. It's fine.
It doesn't flow. It's forgettable. There are worse Christmas carols, but there are definitely better Christmas carols. This is really dull.
It is. Which is really weird, because Christmas Carol is a classic story-wise. It is really hard to mess it up or make it bad. And it's really hard to make it boring, but somehow Rankin Bass did it. They made Christmas Carol boring. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas is my favorite 2D animated Rankin Bass one. I love the music for this. I love the story and just the idea that if you give enough hate mail to Santa, Santa will just say, I'm just not going to deliver toys to this entire town. mainly because one letter was written, and it was written
It was written by a snot-nosed little mouse.
it was not knows little mouse that signed it, all of us. So Santa's like, oh, this entire town hates me. Well, see what see what happens. Screw around, find out. And so this clockmaker's like, well, maybe if we do something nice, like making this giant clock that plays a song for Santa as he's flying overhead, he'll bring toys to us. I'm just thinking, but with lore of Santa, he has a naughty and nice list. So he probably just listed all y'all as naughty and didn't even make toys for y'all. So why do you think this will work? But it does. It does, and yeah, it is all because this one is snout-nosed mouse says Santa isn't real, which is weird because, like, they are able to call up the North Pole and an elf mouse answers the phone. So it's in universe that Santa does exist, and he has existed in, like, the entire time. It's not just, like, the kids. No, it's, like, even the adults are, like, sad that Santa is not going to visit them. So
that means they have to entertain their own kids.
Oh no, but it's like, why would this mouse think that he doesn't exist? Like, if it was one of those things where it's just like, we don't know if he exists, and it's kind of like a magical thing, and sometimes he shows up and it's mainly just, the spirit. No. He's a real thing in this one, so I'm like, this mouse is just dumb.
Masquerading as smart.
Well, yeah. But outside of that, I really like the music, especially even A Miracle Needs a Hand. I really like both the human and outside of that one kid. I like the animal characters in it. And what are your thoughts?
It's okay. It character-wise, it kind of infuriates me, but the animation's good and the story flows well. So it's kind of one of those, I'm mad at the characters as I'm watching it, but okay, I'm watching it.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the last one is A Year Without Santa Claus, which is a classic in my book. And interesting story. So I did not grow up with an official copy of this. So back then, in the 90s, you would just use a blank VHS, pop it in the television, and just whatever came on TV, as long as you press record, it would record onto the VHS. Well, we had these 6-hour VHSs that would just have random stuff on them. So, like, this one VHS we had growing up had, like, a bunch of PBS ETV shows on it, like Pappy Land, Barney the Dinosaur, and Arthur, and stuff like that. And then it would have some episodes of Jim Henson's Dinosaur on it. And then if you kept watching, in between all that would be A Year Without a Santa Claus. But it would be like after like the first song was sung. So it was like after the intro, but before like all the hijinks ensue. So I grew up with this one unofficially. And then whenever it would come on television, I'd have to watch it because then I could see the intro. And then later on I would get it on DVD and stuff. So, but yeah, so this one it's based on the song of the same name. And yeah, it was weird. I thought they made the song for this special, but no, it's a song was around long before this. And it's just a year that Santa took a break because he was sick. He took sick leave, which shows that even Santa needs a mental day. So, and he like puts out like a news report, so like the entire world knows, don't expect Santa this year. He is taking a break. But Mrs. Claus is like, maybe I should do it, or maybe if we show that everybody really loves him, he'll want to work. I'm just like, Mrs. Claus, let him have his health break. Come on. He is sick. He has a cold. They have a Dr. Elf that says he needs to rest. Just let him be. So, first she sends out these two, like the dumbest elves she could find, Jingle and Jangle, to Southtown to find some Christmas spirit, because apparently that's low and Santa gets sick because of low Christmas spirit or something like that. And like they do, but at the same time they get in trouble, so Mrs. Claus has to go and help, and they end up talking with the Miser Brothers, and that's a classic song right there. And it ends up Santa does his thing for Christmas. I enjoy it. It's a classic. With all these, if you haven't checked them out, go and check them out. They're usually playing on Freeform, or you can like buy the DVDs or stream them anywhere, really. I know this is your favorite.
Second favorite.
Second favorite.
Also, kind of side note, this one. Am I the only one who kind of thinks Disney took inspiration from this to kind of influence Noel? You got the little bit, like
barely,
yeah,
barely. It's
just
like
kind of gave me some similar vibes.
It's got similar vibes.
Just
I'll
instead
give you
of
that, but it's
Southtown, it's like the Southwest.
Yeah, but everything else is different about that one. But what are your thoughts on this
I
one?
do really enjoy this one. Mostly for the Miser Brothers.
Yeah, I think that's why anybody watches
Yeah,
them.
this one, like, the Miser Brothers are great. I love it. I do also really like Mrs. Claus in this. Like
This is the only one where Mrs. Claus has like a personality and stuff. Every other time, well, I mean, she had some personality in Santa Claus is Come to Town, but that was like before she was Mrs. Claus.
Yeah. So that doesn't technically
It doesn't
count.
really count, yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy, especially the Miser Brother scenes, especially being married to you, because it's kind of similar.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the heat. She enjoys the cold, so we play the songs back and forth to each other.
A good bit.
Yeah. Also, this was just me growing up, but just the way his face was molded. I always thought the Snow Miser was voiced by Jim Carrey. He's not, but he just looks like him
He does.
in the face. So I just always assume that's Jim Carrey. And honestly, if they ever did a good live-action version of this film, because this is like the only Rankin Bass film that has gotten a live-action remake, and it's bad. It's bad.
It's so bad. Don't watch it.
But if they wanted to do like a real big cinematic one, my cast for Snow Miser is still going to be Jim Carrey, and then He Miser can be Danny DeVito. There we go.
There we go. Perfect. Right there. No notes.
Yep.
This is one of my few no notes.
Right.
Rankin Bass ones.
Yeah.
It's this.
It's got great
And
music.
Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I love the music in it. I love the storyline in it. I do agree. Let Santa have an off day. Let
Right.
Santa be sick. You can't help it if he's sick.
It's not my favorite rendition of Blue Christmas, but it's up there.
It's so sad. It's like little kids.
Yeah. It's like the one song my sister would like play whenever she needed a good cry growing up. Yeah.
Oh, your sister has such a sweet heart. If that's the song she goes to when she needs a cry.
Yeah. I'm talking like real little. But my favorite song is Do You Believe in Santa Claus, which is kind of the whole, like, yeah, I do believe in him, but it's not just because believing is seeing, but just the whole spirit of him and being nice and kind of stuff is why I believe that way. So I really enjoy that. So that's it for Rankin Bass. That's it for the Christmas movies, which means next month we're doing more Disney films. I believe we're in the C's now, and we're doing about 20 movies a video, so I think there's still like 4 or 5 videos. So like for the next 6 months or so, at the end of every month, we're going to talk about Disney movies to get through all those. So if you want to hearing our thoughts about Rankin Bass, definitely like and subscribe so you can hear our thoughts about Disney. If you want a little taste, we've already did one video way back before the holidays started. Check out Let's Talk About Movies Disney Part 1 to get our thoughts on the numerical through like the letter B, maybe the start of the letter C. But we'll just be going through them. We got a lot of Disney movies.
We are shameless Disney adults, people.
We are. Also, I don't really say this often, but if you want to check out me on other places, I'm on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok, all through the same name, Stitch1993. Check me out there. And yeah, if you like hearing my voice and hearing Shelby's voice, definitely subscribe for future videos, and definitely check out my channel because I'm talking about movies, video games, television shows, and toys, mainly from the 90s and 2000s. Until next time, thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.